Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Ananya Datta. Let's start talking politics. About a week to go for elections in the United States, but voting has already started and the President, Joe Biden, has cast his vote. We take you to the battleground states Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will be embarking on. Also, Japan's Prime Minister's political gamble has backfired, and how? About a month after taking power, he's forced to justify his worth of power. We get your report. Just over a week to go for the presidential elections in the United States, and it was a weekend of hoping from one battleground state to the other. Both the presidential candidates made their last pitches to the Americans, and the campaigns are urging supporters to cast their ballots early, a record already broken. The speeches are directly or indirectly targeting the vanishingly small pools of the undecided voters. Let's quickly give you a roundup of what has happened so far.
With your vote in this election, I will end inflation, I will stop the invasion of criminals into our country, and I will bring back the American dream. We're going to bring it back. And this is all you really need to know. They broke it, and I'll fix it. We're going to fix it, and we're going to fix it fast.
What are you having, Madam Vice President?
I am having what she's having. It's an Oberon, and it's made right here in Kalamazoo, which many are calling Kamalazoo. Yeah. Cheers. Okay, cheers. He insists that, and I'm going to quote, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade to be overturned. Come on, everybody wanted this? Women are being denied care during miscarriages? Some only being treated once they developed sepsis? They didn't want this.
You're going to say, Kamala, you're no good. You did a lousy job. You destroyed San Francisco. You destroyed California. You destroyed everything you touched. You're not going to destroy our nation. Kamala Harris, you're fired.
We can and we must seize this opportunity to end this war and bring the hostages home. And I will do everything in my power to meet that end. And we are here because we are fighting for our democracy. And we respect the voices of all people. And we've got a job to do in the next 9 days to fight for this democracy we love.
Sunday night also saw the Republican candidates' closing argument. It was in New York City's iconic landmark of Madison Square Garden, and it was packed with supporters wearing the classic red hat. It was a star-studded event with billionaire Elon Musk, TV personality Tucker Carlson, wrestler Hulk Hogan and comedian Tony Hinchcliffe in attendance. Also, former First Lady Melania Trump made an appearance at the event and introduced her husband as the next Commander-in-Chief.
Please welcome our next Commander-in-Chief, my husband, President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much to a very popular former First Lady, hopefully First Lady again.
Harris plans her own closing argument for a symbolic spot on Tuesday. Early voting explains why Harris will make her closing argument a full week ahead of Election Day with a rally in Washington. The symbolism will be acute since it's the site of Donald Trump's infamous gathering on January 6, 2021, when he told his crowd to quote-unquote fight like hell, and after which a mob smashed into the US Capitol to try to subvert the certification of President Joe Biden's election victory back in 2020. And to get us in perspective, Lincoln Mitchell is joining us on this broadcast. He's a professor in School of International and Public Affairs at Columbia University, and he's joining us live from New York. Professor, thank you so much for joining us here on WION.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Let me quickly start with the closing arguments that we saw in New York by Donald J. Trump. These are some of the comments that we have heard so far, not just from Trump, but also the other speakers. And I would just quickly quote through them, Professor. This is something Trump himself said: the United States is an occupied country.
Hello?
Then another speaker said, Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage. Someone referred to Harris as, quote unquote, the Antichrist. And one person said Harris and her prostitute handlers will destroy our country. I want to ask you, how do comments like these land with the voters?
Well, first, we should just note these are not the closing arguments, because they are, you're right about early voting, but this will continue until, the polls close on election day. These candidates aren't, aren't fading away over the next 10 days. I mean, we should also note, I live in New York City. I actually walked around and saw that rally. And for any New Yorker with any memory, we remember in 1939 when the American Nazi Party had a rally there. My grandfather, who, like me, is Jewish, he protested that rally, and I felt I had to go back down there and walk through that neighborhood. This was not something aimed at the swing voters. Those voters, those handful, vanishing few voters who haven't made up their minds, they're not going to be moved by what is an outright fascist appeal. However, Donald Trump is the leader of a fascist movement, and what he is doing there is, one, ratcheting up the anger so that if he loses, people will take to the streets and claim election fraud. This is not something anybody who was trying to win this election would have done. This is not a way to reach voters. You began your segment by saying how important the swing states are. New York is not even a swing state. There's not even, you have to go to Pennsylvania to find the nearest swing state, and that's like a 3-hour drive. So I think if we really want to understand what's happening here, the fascist movement, and people have been reluctant to use that term, I've been using it for about 3 or 4 years now, is making its final appeal, which is that let's turn America into a fascist country. And, about 40% of the American people are good with that, about 45% are not, and the rest are kind of in the middle.
Right, let's talk about the other camp then, which is definitely focusing on the undecided voters, specifically Gen Z. We have heard Kamala Harris constantly say that she loves Gen Z. She's been talking about how them as a leader is going to be the leader of change. How do you think one generation has become so crucial as a voter bloc in the United States?
Well, every generation is crucial as a voter bloc, but this is the one that seems to be the most up for grabs. There's a couple of reasons here. Kamala Harris, think about it this way. Kamala Harris is 20 years younger than Joe Biden, who, of course, was essentially pushed off the ticket because he was too old. But, your viewers can see me. I'm not a young guy. Kamala Harris is older than me. And Donald Trump is almost 20 years older than Kamala Harris. So this generation of leaders running for president, the America they know, the technology they know, the economic world they know is so removed from what somebody, an American under 30 understands. And I know I have 2 sons under 30. They're both, they're supporting Harris. But when I speak to them, it's so clear, they are worried about climate change, not as an abstract, but it's something that will form their adult life. They have not seen the kind of strong, late 20th century, middle class, powerful America. They've seen America that for all their conscious life has been in a crisis of democracy. That is really where the economics are framed by the economic downturn. And as a result, the political leaders just aren't connecting with these younger voters, and they're going to need to do that. Now, we should be specific. Younger women are pretty strongly with Harris because of this Dobbs decision, because of reproductive freedom related. Younger men, much more up for grabs.
All right, Professor, thank you so much for your analysis. Good to speak to you.
My pleasure. Take care.
Let's shift focus to another big story. After losing his majority in the parliamentary elections, Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has vowed to reform his Liberal Democratic Party. He blamed poor handling of political funds scandal for people's distrust and anger, as he vowed to continue in office so as not to create a political vacuum. Now, while Shigeru Ishiba has ruled out a wider coalition as mandated by the Constitution, the parties now have 30 days to figure out a grouping that can govern. Ishiba had called for snap elections days after taking office on October 1st, but his gamble backfired with the ruling party's worst result in 15 long years, leaving no party with a clear mandate to lead the world's 4th largest economy.
我が自由民主党そして共に連立
Our Liberal Democratic Party and the Komeito Party, which together make up the coalition government, have lost so many talented people, and it is very regrettable. The Liberal Democratic Party must take this matter seriously, reflect on it from the bottom of our hearts, and be reborn.
心底から反省をし
According to the final tally, the LDP won 191 seats in the lower house of the parliament. Together with ally Komeito, which won 24 seats, it got a total of 215 of the 465 seats in the powerful chamber of the parliament, but below the 233 seats needed for the majority. Japanese citizens say the problem lies rooted in a rising distance between the government and its people, which they say needs urgent correction. They point at the economy and national security being the biggest issues of the day.
Even if he continues, I still hope that the slush fund issue will be settled and that Japan's economy and security issues will be addressed properly.
They must really listen to the people. I think they suffered such a big loss because they did not listen to the people. Because for a long time they conducted politics by putting themselves at the center.
I think the outcome was the result of people across Japan wanting to change the current situation in the country.
The uncertainty arising from the result has sent Japan's currency, the yen, to a 3-month low as investors and analysts prepared for days or possibly weeks of political wrangling to form a government. Now, Professor James D.J. Brown, Professor of Political Science, Temple University, Japan, has some insights on this story. Take a look.
Well, I think the real question to begin with is whether he can remain as the head of this party, as whether he can remain in the position of prime minister. He's only been in this role for a matter of weeks. He took the gamble of calling an early election, and he's received a very serious rebuke. So in ordinary circumstances, you would expect the leader of the party to step down. However, given that he's only been in the role for such a short period of time, given that there's no obvious replacement at the moment, he might try and hang on. But to be honest, even if he does try and hold on to the position, he's likely to be an exceptionally weak prime minister and to only hold the role for really a very short period of time.
Now, just 2 days after the country of Georgia went to polls, the election is being disputed by a losing opposition as the ruling party prepares for another term in power. Here's a report of fresh wave of turmoil in Georgia.
The iconic Freedom Square in Tbilisi is gearing up for a political standoff. The pivotal parliamentary elections in Georgia are being contested by the opposition. Leaders are crying foul over the result that the ruling Georgian Dream Party has already claimed. The country's election commission says that the GDP clinched nearly 54% of the vote. But the president says it isn't so. Salom Zaurabichvili claims that the ruling party won only 40% of the mandate. Disputing the election, the top leader has called on supporters to galvanize.
As the last independent institution in this country, I must clearly state that I do not recognize these elections. Recognizing them would be tantamount to legitimizing Russia's takeover of Georgia. I invite you to join us tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Rustaveli Avenue, where together we will declare to the world and to each other that we reject these elections. We will peacefully defend every vote.
While the opposition fumes, a wave of celebration has erupted among the ruling party leaders and their supporters.
I would like to express my gratitude to the community gathered here and to the whole of Georgia, to our beloved voters who follow us honestly and with such loyalty. This is already the fourth election, The fact that the same party can achieve such success in such a difficult situation is a good indicator of the talent of the Georgian people.
The political climate in Georgia is not just a domestic issue. The country, formerly a part of the Soviet Union, shares its borders with Russia, but it aims to become a part of the European Union and step away from the shadow of what used to be its Russian identity. For more than 2 years, Georgia is grappling with the spillover of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, its location making the election more pivotal for the country's stability. The European Union has called for the elections to be investigated. The bloc demanded a probe after the pro-Russia ruling party claimed victory. But European election observers said that they registered incidents of vote buying, voter intimidation and ballot stuffing.
Here we have made it clear that the EU expects the Georgian Central Election Commission and other relevant authorities to fulfill their duties, to swiftly, transparently and independently investigate and adjudicate electoral irregularities and allegations thereof. Those irregularities must be clarified and addressed.
Russia has been dragged into the political turmoil in Georgia, with the opposition saying that Moscow influenced the mandate. But the Kremlin has lashed out at the West, saying outside parties are trying to destabilize Georgia. As the rift between opposing sides grows wider, the next few days will be critical in determining what lies ahead for the Eurasian country. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Now correspondent Will Denslow is joining us live from Brussels. Will, good to see you. Clearly a lot is happening in Tbilisi. How is Brussels looking at it?
Well, there's certainly a lot of trepidation as far as Brussels is concerned, and it was seen as a vote that could have major ramifications for Georgia's aspirations of joining the European Union. Polling suggests that a vast majority of Georgia could make that a far more distant possibility, considering the fact that Georgia's accession bid was essentially frozen in recent months amid allegations of democratic backsliding. That was highlighted in comments made by Josep Borrell, the foreign affairs chief at the EU, saying that he hopes that reforms can be made that are more in keeping with the values shared by the EU. And when it comes to the integrity of this election we saw over the weekend, Josep Borrell says that he wants these irregularities to be clarified and addressed as soon as possible. We've heard from some MEPs here in Brussels that have said that intimidation was everywhere, so a strong response from some lawmakers. However, there is certainly not a unified voice among leaders in the European Union. Viktor Orban, Hungary's Prime Minister, has come out and said that it was an overwhelming victory for the Dream Party in Georgia, and he's even made a trip to Tbilisi to congratulate the party as well.
All right, Will, thank you so much for all those updates from Brussels. Let's now go across to India. Electioneering is heating up in Maharashtra. That votes in state polls on the 20th of November. And in the personality-based political system, Dynasty has a huge role to play. Keen of leaders are fielded to cash in on the winnability of their family name. This time too, there are ticket allotments to one or more members of a single family, and that applies to both sides of the political divide. The Mahayuti, led by the BJP and the opposition Mahavikas Aghadi. Almost 100 candidates have family links to powerful political families who control local governance bodies, municipal councils and more. Dynasty in politics has given rise to some interesting electoral fights. The most prominent will be the Baramati constituency due to the split within Maharashtra's politically powerful Pawar family. Blood relatives, NCP President and State's Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar faces his nephew from the NCP Sharad Pawar camp, Yogendra Pawar. All eyes will also be on the Worli and Mahim constituencies in Mumbai, from where Uddhav Thackeray's son Aditya and MNS chief Raj Thackeray's son Amit will be contesting. There are multiple seats where sons and daughters, brothers and sisters of big guns have brought in former Chief Minister Ashok Chavan's daughter, Srijaya Chavan. She is contesting from Bhokar and the family seat in Nanded. Also in the race is BJP Mumbai President Ashish Shalar and his brother Vinod Shalar. Former Union Minister Narayan Rane's son Nitesh Rane has been fielded by the BJP. Nitesh's brother Nilesh Rane joined the Eknath Shinde-led Shiv Sena and is also contesting, and the list goes on and on. Down the years in state elections as well as national elections, many have taken pot shots at the evils of the dynastic politics. Analysts have talked of family strongholds and the like being a violation of democracy. But the fact is, if it ticks the winnability box and there are no rules against it, dynastic politics flourishes on. Now, principal correspondent Disha Shah reports from Mumbai on this story.
Well, that is right. As the elections are just less than a month away, all the six political parties of the two coalitions are all out on the ground to woo the voters with their different poll campaigns. If you talk about NCP, which is led by Ajit Pawar, who is a Deputy Chief Minister of the state, he is using technology as a medium to reach out to the voters, not only in his Baramati constituency, but across the state for that matter. He has got more than 200 LED vans, which talks about the development works that NCP has done over the past few years, the promises and even the achievements, and that van will travel across the state over the next couple of days. If you talk about BJP, they have also started hitting the rural areas, especially to woo the rural voters, because they also form the larger chunk of the voter population. So they are all out talking to people, addressing the concerns that the rural voters have and how they can fulfill. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be joining the poll campaign for the BJP and for the Mahayuti, which is the ruling alliance here in Maharashtra, from 5th of November till 14th of November. If you talk about Shiv Sena, they are also out, especially here in Mumbai and the neighboring areas, to talk to the urban voters about the challenges that they are facing, and on the ground level they are also holding a lot of rallies to talk to the people. So before the elections, this is what the political parties are doing on the ground level, because this will not only decide the individual fate, but even for the political parties as to who has a larger share and who gets the larger share this assembly polls in Maharashtra.
Last but not the least, Uruguay's presidential polls are heading for a runoff after centre-left candidate Yamandu Orsi emerged as the front-runner in the first round of voting on Sunday. However, he failed to secure enough votes for an outright win. We leave you with this report. Thanks for watching Race to Power with me.
Uruguay seems poised for a runoff election next month. That's after a presidential vote on Sunday where neither candidate secured the majority needed for a first-round win. Results showed that center-left candidate Yamandu Orsi of the Broad Front Party secured over 41% with 60% of votes tallied, while conservative Alvaro Delgado had secured around 29%. Speaking to supporters Sunday evening in the capital Montevideo, which has historically backed the center-left, Orsi struck an upbeat tone despite not securing an outright victory.
It is a moment of joy, deep happiness, change and hope. Today the Uruguayan people have won. Today hope is triumphing, and you are here to prove it.
However, the mood was more subdued among some Broad Front voters that Reuters spoke to, with some saying the result was tighter than they expected. Sunday's distant third-place finisher was the young, social media-savvy conservative Andres Ojeda. He has pledged to support Delgado to block a left victory if he is knocked out in the first round. His near 17% of votes, combined with Delgado's 29%, according to current tallies, could be enough to eventually beat the left in a runoff. As initial results came in on Sunday, Delgado voiced confidence in his chances in a second round.
Here is a team, a coalition that today has started to form a government. That there is a team, a coalition that today started to select a president of the republic. There is a team, a coalition that will not allow our future to be taken away. We won't allow it.
Uruguay's race between two centrist candidates bucks a Latin American trend of sharp right-left divides. The significant overlap between the major conservative and liberal coalitions has taken some of the sting out of the result. Vote counting was also underway Sunday for a binding referendum on pension reform that would lower the retirement age by 5 years to 60, and another that would boost police powers to fight drug-related crime. Exit polls show both were likely rejected.
The US race to power, marked by high-octane campaign rallies, life-threatening encounters, game-changing presidential debates, the color and the drama, the key defining moments, deep insights and informed analysis. Watch continuous coverage of the US presidential elections 2024 on WION World is Wide.